All. It's the podcast with Comedian Nazareth.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Laughter for All podcast. I am Comedian Nazareth, and thank you so much for joining me on episode number 202 on a Tuesday night here in Southern California. Thank you for joining, and if you're already joining, let your friends know to join us and have a good time because this show is even though it's Laughter for All. It's not about laughter. It's about people coming and being real on the show, and that's what we go for. And I know every show we make sure you learn something. So that's the goal from the show, that you can learn even one thing. So anyway, from bringing funeral home directors to models to Miss America to Mister America to having pastors, leaders, not politicians. We don't have politicians, and just different people from all walks of life coming in and just spending an hour having a real talk. So anyway, tonight will be no exception, except I have two guests, not one. So it's going to be exciting. And I've never met him in person, so that makes it a lot more exciting for us. But anyway, just to let you know, last Sunday I was at in Carlsbad, California. I was at Next Chapter Church. uh, this Saturday, if you are in the Sacramento, California area, I'm doing a comedy show to raise for Kenya. There's an evangelist in Kenya that needs support, so we decided to do a comedy show for him, and all the proceed will go to him and his family over there to help reach Kenya and help people in Kenya. And on Sunday morning, I'll be at the refuge, so you'll see me there, couple services, and that's it for now. So anyway, let me get started. I have a new friend, and his name is Benjamin Ironside Koppin. He's an award-winning writer and director, and he has a passion for finding honesty and truth within the medium of film. He loves collaborating with actors, pushing each other to find what is authentic within each moment. Since graduating from Biola University, that's where my son John, you guys know John. John is a film director right now. He's on tour. I don't know what part of the country he is, but he's touring with a top country singer. He won't tell me his name, but he said, Dad, he's so big. We're doing big arenas and he's flying. So, anyway, he's a Biola graduate, film school. So, I respect that means Benjamin is wonderful too. With a degree of cinema and media arts, he has directed 8 feature films, 3 documentaries, and 5 narratives. I'm sure there is more. And also joining us is his friend Courtney Bandico, is an accomplished actress gaining a cult fan following after playing the character Finch on the hit CW show Legacies. She brings both honesty and depth to each role, pulling the audience deeper into her character's journeys. Courtney is unafraid to take her performance to raw and vulnerable places. Please welcome my new friends, Benjamin and Courtney. Hi, guys.
Hi,
Thank you so
dude.
much for taking the time to join me here. And let's see, Courtney, where's home for you?
I'm in LA. I'm in Los Angeles.
You're in LA. And how about you, Ben?
I'm down in Temecula, so it's about an hour outside of LA. So
Good. I'm
yeah.
in between both of you. I'm in Corona, California.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, that's
So
awesome.
that's awesome. So let me start. Are you living the dream, guys? Courtney, I'll start with you. You're an actress right now. Is this something you wanted to do,
Oh,
or you just?
oh yeah. I'm not from California. I'm one of those Midwest transplants who moved out
Mhm.
to LA to do acting in a big way.
And how's your family feels about you leaving and coming to pursue something like this?
Weirdly, like despite like even having a small amount of success, they're still weirdly worried about me. They're still asking, "Hey, when are you going to get a job?" Like they're still asking me that, which is
That's
really fun.
that's fun. So how did COVID affect you as an actress? I mean, we're beyond that, but right now you're back. How was life after too?
Well, I'm grateful that the industry's back, and grateful to be auditioning again. Grateful for all that, and weirdly, Legacies was shot during COVID. So like shooting with masking, that was a whole situation. We would be filming, and the actors were the only ones ever allowed to take our mask off, and it was only ever while the cameras were rolling. Okay, rolling, take off mask. Okay, cut, put it back on.
So what would be your ideal like when your agent calls you and said, "Here's a job for you." What would be the ultimate ideal job for you?
Oh, I mean, I definitely like genre stuff. I just think that's more fun. I want that stuff coming out of my fingers and like powers and stuff. I mean, I just think that's a lot more uh, fun and imaginative. But I mean, staying in genre would be really fun.
So you'd do Ahsoka or all this, Star Wars stuff.
Hey.
Oh yeah, any of that. Yeah, just like stay
And
in the genre realm.
and how did you meet Ben?
I auditioned for Pastor's Kid, so it's really very, 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 very traditional. I just auditioned for his movie and wound up working on it, and then here we are.
All right. So Ben, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You grew up probably in the church, right?
I did, yeah.
And what did your parents expected out of you?
I had really chill parents, thankfully. The one thing that we weren't allowed to have in the house was anything witches. They were really like no Harry Potter, no Hocus Pocus was a big thing. No
Uh-huh.
Halloween Town. But other than that, I had really chill parents that we'd go to church. We went to some conservative churches. We bounced around to other different churches. And they let me question a lot of things. Is it wasn't just like, oh, you need to believe this because I believe this and you have to follow this exactly. We would even go to church sometimes. We'd sit in the car and my parents would be like, what did you think was biblical in that? And what are things that you didn't think was biblical in that? And we would kind of take apart sermons sometimes and talk about things and where things came from. So I'm very thankful that I was raised in a family that was very gospel oriented. My mom worked with at-risk teens quite a bit. And so I helped with some of her ministries that she would do. And so we were dealing with suicidal kids, cutting kids, kids with abusive families, kids dealing drugs at school, selling their Ritalin to other kids at school, all
Right.
sorts of things. And so for me, like Christianity was never just in the church box. It was always like outside in the real world. Like I remember, not to get too graphic, but we went to a house of a mom called up my mom and was like, my son's lost it. He's on something. We would go to the house and I'll never forget they had a wall of mirrors. And we walk into the house and the mirrors are destroyed because he went and punched all the mirrors because he was having a moment. And so my mom, he was like sitting on the roof smoking cigarettes. My mom had to basically talk him down off the roof. And that was in like junior high or high school. I witnessed that. And so that's where for me, Christianity has never been this like clean and squeaky thing. And with us making this film Pastor's Kid that we've made, it's an R-rated faith film that's coming out this weekend. It comes out on the 15th. And it's kind of taking a lot of those experiences that we grew up in and trying to tell it in a raw and honest way instead of this kind of Christian way that I feel like a lot of faith content likes to clean things up. They like to make things squeaky clean. And that's just not been my experience growing up in the church. And I love the idea of seeing God step into the mess and the darkness. So, yeah.
That's neat because you know what, this is interesting because my kids, I told them in the beginning, I said, listen, you can be whatever you want to be. I'm not going to tell you to be a doctor, engineer, whatever you want to do, because I know when you do what you love to do, you'll end up being happier. You'll end up making more money. You'll take care of yourself doing what you love to do because you'll be happy. And my son decided to be a film director. My daughter is wants to go to entertainment law. So, and they both do stand up. So our house, like your house, wasn't the force. So for you to do a movie, to write a movie called Pastor's Kid, I mean, I don't want to ruin the plot or something, but is this like the typical pastor kid where, because when there's a lot, the whole mentality in the Christian world is a pastor kid is someone who's rebelling, who's leaving the
Right.
church, doesn't want to do anything. Is that kind of where the story is going or no?
There's a little bit of that. Basically, I ended up working at a church doing video for a season. And so we were scrambling to get a testimony together for an Easter service. And that's where we filmed my friend's testimony. I had no idea this was her journey. But basically, long story short is her mother was an alcoholic. So she basically had to raise her own little brother growing up. Then her mom becomes a Christian. And then her mom becomes an executive pastor at a church. So she's handling all the business and finance at this church. but everyone is praising her mom's conversion story while no one is addressing the pain she went through as a child. She talked a lot about how, I would hear her have to wake my mom up when she was passed out drunk when I was a kid to like take me to school or go to work. But then I'm in high school and my mom's letting me not letting me go out past 7 o'clock at night. And so just that hypocrisy she's seeing, it's a little even more extreme than just your typical pastor's kid. And so because of that, she said, she's like, I pushed God away. I pushed the church away. I pushed my mom away. So then she gets into drug dealing, party lifestyle, all this stuff within college. And then let's just say some events happen that force her to start reflecting and dealing with some of her traumas from her past. So that's basically our whole film, is like the whole movie is her kind of dealing with those traumas and wrestling with them. And I would say it's asking more questions and giving answers and allowing the audience to pull more away from it than your typical Christian film.
So why Courtney? Why was she with all the people that auditioned? Why did you
Oh,
pick
man.
her?
She's fantastic. It's just, she is basically, our movie is as if a documentary crew was just dropped on this girl's life for a handful of days. And so we really needed an actress that could bring the depth to that character, make her likable, but also see that she has walls up. And Courtney sent an audition tape and was just phenomenal. So she has some amazing stories about what she would do in front of people versus what she'd do behind closed doors for the character. And it's pretty awesome.
That is awesome. So Courtney, what attracted you to that role?
Well, one of the biggest conversations Ben and I had about this movie was that he was just trying to do something different. And that's so punk rock to me. And so that's really what drew me to the project initially, was just, hey, here's this thing. It exists. It does great things. The faith film genre as it is right now. It accomplishes some great things, but how can we stretch it? How can we do it better? And then, and how can we push the boundary a little bit? And then I'm on board for something like that. I think that's ultimately why one gets into creative ventures, is because to make some small change somewhere.
Now, when you do acting, I've done acting in the past until my agency went, we have a role for you. I go, I'm on tour. They say, decide, do you want to be a comedian or an actor? I said, a comedian. But in acting, of course, there's two styles. Which style would you use? Did you have anything in your past that said, oh, I can relate to that character? Or was it like, oh, I'm just going to imagine what would it be like?
Well, I think it's imperative to find, especially the kind of acting I do, I think it's imperative to find some correlation between yourself and your character. Because that's the only way it's personal. And I just think if my character was human sitting here, just like anybody else sitting here, I'm pretty sure if I dug deep enough, I'd find something somewhere at that deep level to connect to. And I really think that's ultimately what it's about. Like, how do you find your connection with this character and what makes you run with it?
Right. And so, Ben, this is really taking a risk. I'll tell you why. I've been around Christian, not all my life, since I came from the world, from Hollywood and from all that. And I've never was satisfied with Christian films.
Right.
And my son is the same thing. He's like, Dad, the quality is bad. The story is always gets you. And I'm not putting. The Chosen has changed a lot of things for people, but it's a different story. But when you do a Christian movie, it always has been about, like, you expect what's going to happen at the end, and you know what's going to. So. And people say, I have a friend who's Robert G. Lee, who wrote a movie, and because there was a bottle of wine in it, they had a problem with the distribution. Now, why do you think? Why do you think making it rated R, making it uncomfortable for a typical Christian family that go, okay, we're sick, we don't want to watch anything wrong, and we're going to take our kids to the movie to watch Pastor's Kid? Why? How is? Tell me the challenge with that, and how are you going to overcome that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think for such a long time, I feel like what the question you asked is like a 17-layer question. I'll try to unpack in different ways. But it's like for the longest time, faith and family have been merged together, right? And I think that there are stories in the Bible, there are stories of testimonies that are not family friendly. And I think that we do a disservice when we take some of these raw, more darker stories and we whitewash them, or we sanitize them. And so it makes the power of the gospel, it makes the power of what God's doing stepping into that, I would argue not as strong. Now I want to like clarify this, that I think faith and family movies are great. I think they reach a certain demographic, but I also think that we can break off and have films that are more raw and real. And I think you're starting to see that with things like The Chosen, and with things like Jesus Revolution and Father Stew, and The Blind just came out. You know, there are scenes of alcoholism in The Blind I wouldn't want my 4 and 7-year-old to see. And that is okay. There's scenes in The Chosen I wouldn't want my 4 and 7-year-old to see. And that is okay. Those stories are important to still be told. So for us, there was this like whole movement behind this idea of, why can't we just tell a faith story like a normal, real movie would be? Have people talk how they really would talk in this culture, not to justify it or to glamorize it, but just to say, this is what God stepped into with this girl's life. And for me specifically, because it was my friend's story, to sanitize it or make it PG just did not feel like it was honoring what God did in her life. So that's where for us, I think there's this push to like break away and be like, it's great to have faith and family. We should keep that. But there also should be space in our world to tell some of these harder stories in an honest way.
Now, I'm sure in that story, it wasn't just deliberately just adding scenes or language or something just to make it like, oh, we want to push the envelope. I know the story itself. And I mean, this maybe it's time for me to write my story. I mean, I used to take my dad to strip bars and get him drunk. I was a comedy. I used to work with Adam Sandler, Kevin James. I left do cocaine everywhere. And then I came to Christ, and I'm like, I can't write my story. I can't. My story, no, because the end of the story is to share Jesus with people. So I go, Hollywood's not going to look at it, and the Christian film will not look at it. So how did you manage to get the distribution for that?
Yeah, I mean, and the answer is we're self-distributing the film.
Okay.
At that point, we're partnering with a theatrical booker, and so that's what's been really exciting. Is we had a handful of people both in the Christian world and the general audience world, the secular world. I hate to say it, use that term, but it's like they were interested in the film. The film is a very strong character piece, so it plays well even apart from the faith aspect of it. Courtney just carries this whole film emotionally. So if you're a fan of strong acting, strong performance, whether you're a Christian or not, this movie is very powerful in that. So we had people on all sides interested in the film, but then we pushed them to be like, how do we do a wider release? How do we get it in theaters? How do we do some of these things? And that's when they would start to get cold feet. So for us, we felt like it's like, okay, we believe in this film. We have sent it around. And what was crazy, dude, is we sent it to even conservative Midwest, like Christian, like older ladies, 50s, 60-year-old ladies. And we let them know ahead of time. We said, hey, we made this R-rated because of this. We wanted to show the power of the story. And they watched it and sent us reviews back, and they loved it. And so that's something for me that I think audiences are just ready for something a little different. As long as ahead of time you let them know, hey, this is not a Kirk Cameron film. This is not a Fireproof. Like, we are doing something different. Be ready if you're stepping into this. And if you're uncomfortable with that, no pressure for you to step into this film. But what's been even cool to see is as the theatrical release has been going, people have been saying, who's somebody in my life that's in darkness right now? That even though this content may be outside of my comfort zone, who's someone that I should take to go see this? And people are taking people. They're showing up. So are they buying tickets? So it's amazing. But yeah, we basically had to do it ourselves. So
that's awesome. And by the way, just like a side note, I saw your video about running on the beach with Celine singing. It teared me up on YouTube. But anyway, so Courtney, just some people, a lot of listeners. We have about 138 people watching right now. And there'll probably be thousands listening to this. Courtney, how difficult is it to be an actress? I mean, some people go, I want to be an actress, and they think they just can go in and audition, and maybe if the look is right. What's your biggest challenge as an actress?
Which part of it? The actual
work part, the acting, not the acting, not when you get the role, but everything leading to that.
Everything. So mean, I think it's no secret. Hollywood's a tough game. Getting work, it's incredibly competitive, and not even a meritocracy at the end of the day. But I really think what gets me through it all is just my love for it. Like I think what I did really successful is I've never forgotten that 16-year-old doing high school theater who fell in love with it for the first time, and then it's just blinders from there. Like, I love this thing. I'm going to do it. And yes, it's hard. Yes, if I really want something and it doesn't go my way, it goes to somebody bigger, it's that just is the game. And I can be upset about it, or I can just accept that's the game and just keep doing what I do, which is get better, know my lines, practice, just keep going and keep doing it. And it really is, it must be a labor of love. And to go into like all the specific difficulties, I don't know if that's a secret that, like how do you get reps? How do you get in the union? How do you get jobs? How do you get hired? I mean, I struggle with all of that. It's
Right.
very difficult. It's just one, I think, just how do you get to anywhere? How do you get to the grocery store down the street, one foot in front of the other?
Right. So how do you deal? Like we know for 6 months that they have the strike. There wasn't any project coming up. And how do you deal with life when things are not happening? When you're not getting work? When you go,
Oh, wow.
wow, what do I do? How do you handle that?
Cry.
Right. That helps. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I also feel very, very fortunate that I have an incredible support system. I've got my sister, she supports me every step of the way. I've got friends who will listen to me when I say, hey, this was very sad, I really wanted this, this happened, or it's just, I feel like having a support system really, really helps. And I feel if anything else, I just feel very fortunate that I have that.
That's awesome. This question for you, Ben, as well, is how do you deal with rejection? I mean, this is helpful for people who are listening. Their rejection is different than ours. How
Right,
do you
right.
deal with rejection? You're the writer. You submit a script. You submit a project, and or sometimes you were asked to direct, and then they go, "Oh no, never mind. We got someone else." How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think for me, honestly, it's just doing it yourself. And I know that sounds is it's like I got tired of submitting to things for a long time. We were up in LA, my wife and I, for 6 years, and we pitched and pitched and pitched and pitched, and we had things that were perfectly lined up, and they fell apart. And so we kind of create this mentality a little bit more where it's like, we do commercial work on the side, right? That's what pays our bills. And
Right.
then what we do is every year we make an independent feature film. And so that can be big, that can be small, but every year we're making an indie film and making something. And that way, you know the sandbox you can play in. You sit here and say, I have this house or this friend's apartment or these things, and let's build a story around what we have instead of sitting here being like, my space epic that costs $300 million, Netflix
Mm.
turned it down again. It's like you can be doing that while you're making your own small projects on an iPhone or an SLR or whatever you need to make them on. So that's how I do it. It's like I just can't sit around and pitch all the time. I can't do it. I'm not built for it. Because I like to sort of say, screw you, I'm going to do it anyways. I mean, that's how Pastor's Kid got to be where it is. Is we took
Right.
the script and the story around town and we pitched it to almost every Christian company you could see, and we were told it needs to be PG and you need to sell a book with it. Those were the things. You need to sell like a Bible curriculum.
A Bible
And
correctly.
yep. And I called up my wife after one really disheartening meeting, and I said, do we just give in? Do we just tell the story that way? And maybe we should have. I don't know. But she was like, screw that. We're going to do it our own way. We're going to make it real. We're going to make it honest, and we're going to honor this story in a way that we haven't really seen before on screen. And so that's kind of been our 4 or 5 year journey now, Courtney, of this film getting out, released, and finished.
We got
And
here though.
so yeah. And so that's what's really exciting about it. Finally, we're in 38 theaters nationwide this weekend. And if that succeeds, there's more AMC theaters that want us in them across the country. And so I don't know, man. It's just about if people are going to respond to an R-rated story of faith. And we've been getting reviews back that people are like, it's about time. Like, this is, these are the kind of stories we've been wanting. So I hope that we do connect with people.
You know what? I think myself and my son will be the first to say, yeah, it's about time we do real stuff. And that's what this whole podcast is about. Like, I don't,
Yeah,
when
I
I
love
bring
that.
people, pastors on, I go, I don't want to hear you know how you have the answer that's already pre-planned that makes you look good, that stuff. I mean, I had them cry on the show because you ask questions that normally, it's just being real. And that's something we used to be missing in the Christian realm, is the honesty, the truth, being honest. So Courtney, how do you deal with rejection? What do you do?
Oh, that's funny. I was thinking about that while you were asking Ben that. So I look at rejection very differently. Maybe I had to start looking at it this way, but in terms of the casting process and auditioning, I don't really see it as they rejected me. They all they did was just choose somebody else.
Mm,
And that's it. It has actually quite nothing to do with me. It's just like I had this metaphor told to me one time. It's just when you go to the grocery store to pick out cans of soup, it's not like you go, I don't want you chicken noodle. No, I'm going with split pea. It's just like split pea, that one. That's all it is. And then I mean, I don't know if that helps, but that is just I don't really call it rejection. It really they didn't. It's just that they didn't think they're just like no that one. I mean, I
right.
just got down to the I don't even know how many people were in the final round or what, but I got close to something. And all it was, I mean, it just didn't go my way. I just think that they just gravitated towards somebody else a lot more strongly than they did me. And that, what do you do with that? That's really just
That
great.
that's
Wow, great.
healthy.
They had a great connection, and that's who they want to make that movie with, and that's wonderful.
That's
you know,
very healthy. That's very healthy. Now, how long it took you guys to shoot that from first day of shooting till the end? How long it took to shoot the movie?
So we had an investor that was lined up, and then they pulled out last minute, and so we had
Ouch.
yeah. So we had to break up production a little bit. So what we did is we did 2 initial weeks. So it was like 10 days, 5 day weeks, where we shot kind of the main narrative. Basically, our story's kind of broken up where you have the main narrative that's kind of like our current timeline, and then different things throughout her day are triggering flashbacks and memories that she had of kind of being raised in this kind of abusive, like hypocritical childhood that she had. And so basically what we did is we took those first 10 days and we shot 90%, if not more, of that main narrative. So we had that out of the way, assembled the story, raised some more funds, and then went back and shot for maybe like one more week and a handful of pickup days. So
Mhm.
probably total we're probably like 18 days, 17 days, somewhere between 17 and 20 days, I would say, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how
Mhm.
long is the movie? I mean, how long does it run?
Yeah, we're a 90-minute movie,
Nine.
91
So it is a
minutes.
90-minute movie.
Oh yeah, full movie in theaters. We're rated R with a real MPA rating, everything. Yeah.
That is awesome. Now, did you use the hero's journey for that when you put the character, or no? You just
No, no,
it's
no.
based on a true story.
Yeah, so basically, and I would say that's something we're kind of coining the term, like Christian art house is the term we've been trying to kind of coin a little bit, because it's how we told the story, it's the pacing of the story, it's how we shot the story, because it's more of a day in the life of film. There isn't this huge plot, right, that's moving everything forward. It's more so us following this character throughout her life as these mundane things are triggering these pains from her childhood, and she's choosing to either push them down or to turn and face them. And so basically what you're starting to see is throughout the movie, it's God slowly breaking open her heart to this idea of, can I open up a relationship with God again? Can I have that type of thought or discussion again? And at the end of the film, she's left at a crossroads where the audience gets to decide, does she change her ways or does she continue down her same path that she was on? And the whole goal was to make a film that I wanted to make it so that even if an atheist is watching it, by the time we get to that end, even the atheist is saying, I don't want her to go back to that life she was living. So whatever needs to get her out of that life, like go for it, like do it. And I think we earned that. I make the joke a little bit that in a traditional Christian film, our character would have been like a drug addict in the beginning. She would have been saved at minute 10 or 15. And then the rest of the movie would have been her like saving kids in another country or something like that. Whereas
Right.
our film is 90 minutes of her wrestling with these things and struggling through childhood traumas and trying not to just I don't know, push those things under the rug, but to really deal with them.
Gloss over
Yes, yes,
the hard realities of many of our stories.
right.
That is.
There's a funny scene, and I'll say this is I don't want to pick on too many Christian movies because I think they still have a role. But I believe there's a scene in God's Not Dead where a character gets cancer, and then in God's Not Dead 2, the newsboys show up, and she's just like, "The cancer's gone," and it's just like done. And it's like I have known Christians who have gone through cancer. I have known Christians who it doesn't just go away, who God doesn't just heal them. And so the beauty of telling that type of story that's real is far more powerful than sometimes we just gloss over these things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And by the way, I had the newsboys on the podcast, and
Dude,
we didn't
they're
talk
great.
about healing at all. No,
I
they're friends.
I still listen to the old school ones, and I'll put on "God's Not Dead," the song, every once in a while.
Yeah.
It's a great song. It's a great song.
Courtney,
Mhm.
if there's a young girl watching right now or listening or something going, I would like to be an actor someday. What is the process? How do you study for other than theatrical?
Mhm.
I mean, I know you have an acting coach, I'm sure, or something.
Mhm, mhm,
But
mhm.
what is the process?
So I look at very divided the process in getting into the industry or starting study of acting.
Industry.
Industry. Start watching for one. Start watching movies and commercials and see where you would put yourself. I was just having this conversation with somebody else who was asking me like, "Hey, what do I do?" And I would say, "Hey, start with commercials." I mean, getting a commercial agent's not very difficult. I mean, it takes very good pictures. Because I was saying, take some really nice headshots. It bonus points if you know what to take a picture of, like which headshots to get, and then I want to say the more specific you can get, the better, because really ultimately I think when I first moved out to LA, I took every headshot, every single kind of character, and I had a picture for everything. And then it's really I forgot it's like the echo effect in marketing. If you try to be everything to everybody, you become nothing to nobody.
Mhm.
Whereas if you just pick a niche and just do that very well, you'll have a lot more chance. Because I mean, I didn't start working until I was just like, I'm just gonna be myself. I'm just gonna be myself. And so now I just do that. I'm like, I'm just okay with auditioning for the edgy brown girl with a chip on her shoulder. That's basically, if I make a whole career out of that, that's great.
Did you have a cowboy headshot though? I need to know. Did you have a cowboy headshot?
I didn't, but I do have one with an American flag on my shirt.
Oh, nice. Okay, I
Yeah.
like it. I like it.
Yeah. So I don't know. So to boil it down, it's kind of twofold. Take headshots, but like watch some movies first and have those headshots be very geared toward this is the character in the TV show that I would be in. Like if you look at an ensemble or you watch The Breakfast Club, which one are you? Or you watch Gossip Girl, which one are you? And take that headshot.
I see. That's very good. Ben, someone says, okay, you went to Biola. And so I know my son again went to Biola. He studied, the script writing and film. What did you use for shooting the movie? What cameras?
So I'm a commercial director and DP on the like I said, that's what pays our bills. So we own Red cameras.
Red?
And
Oh,
so yeah. So that's kind of I work predominantly in the beauty space a lot. So a lot of makeup, a lot of makeup to be honest with you. And so a lot of the stuff we're shooting is very flat lighting. Very bright lit, kind of what a traditional Hallmark or Christian movie might look like. And so
right.
whenever I get a chance to shoot with shadows or to shoot with just natural light, I love that. And so we shot with the Red Epic W and then some stuff with the Komodo. And then I actually bought a set of vintage anamorphic lenses That over the years we kind of like I would buy one and then fix it up and then buy another one, fix them up, and so they have a lot of character to them. And for a cinematographer, it's hard to like explain it. You know, it's like the lens blooms and does all this stuff, but they have it look like a movie. Okay, I'll put it that way. They just look like a movie, and so basically we just ran handheld the entire film. I DP'd the film, directed the film. My wife produced on the film, so she was behind monitor with our other producer. And then, it was a small crew of what, 5 to 7 people, Courtney?
That's
like
amazing.
That. Yeah, and we rented a handful of locations. Yeah, and then I would shoot and DP, and then I would call back to my wife and our other producer, Natalie. I'd be like, does it look good? And they're like, yes, and we would move forward. So
you're the cinematographer, the director, everything.
Yeah.
Now, did churches help you to with locations, with finances, with volunteers?
So the church let us film at the actual church that the film took place for a couple of scenes. And then later on, I don't want to spoil too much, but basically she goes to a church in another country. And our overseas pastor at the church I was working for, he got us connected with this amazing church in LA somewhere, Orange County. That was the Sri Lankan church that we needed for our film because the character goes to Sri Lanka. We, of course, can't pay to go to Sri Lanka, but he found us this church and they let us film there for free. They did a service for us. And then their lead pastor acts in the film in a couple of scenes. And so it was
welcome to LA.
It was amazing, dude. It was a total God thing because I was like, when we wrote the script, I was like, I don't know how we're going to pull this off. And then it got to get closer and closer to us needing to film it. And I literally reached out to our outreach pastor and he's like, I got a guy. And he gave me a contact and it was beautiful. They prayed over us. They were so supportive of the film, you know, and even with them, I was nervous to share about the R rating and I did. And the guy was like, listen, if this reaches one person who is in darkness and lost, then I am all for it. He said, this is okay. Let's be verbatim. He goes, I had a dream that I was in my church and there were people painting on canvas and there were people doing music and there were people making art. And all of it was to go out and help people know that Jesus loves them. He goes, I had that dream, you know, recently. And he goes, so I want that to be a part of the story of this film. And so they let us film there for free. It was beautiful.
Oh, so let me ask you the same thing I asked Courtney is like, if some young person right now wants to be a script writer or a director, what advice do you give them?
My biggest thing is just do it. Is you just have, and I think Courtney, you've talked even before about how it's hours. It's just hours worth of work you have to put into performance. You have to put into character. And I would say it's the same way with film is don't let somebody say you can't do something. It's like all of us nowadays have an iPhone that shoots 4K. We have a laptop that can edit something. And so it's like, go out and start telling your stories the way you want to tell them, even if it has to be in a smaller sandbox, right? Than what you were hoping for. It's like, start doing it now. Instead of like, one thing is I feel like I went to film school a little bit, excuse me. And Viola was great. They taught us amazing things. But one of the flip sides was it became, you need, excuse me, guys, you need this big crew to do everything. Whereas I was used to as like a high school kid running around and making movies on my own, right? And then you get to film school and they're like, here are the actual real roles for everything. So then you start to feel like, oh, and I don't think that was Viola trying to pressure you or anything like that. They were just being honest about the industry. And so you start to feel like, oh, I can't do this anymore by myself, right? Like it's unprofessional for me to do it this way. And I think what's beautiful is now I think we're seeing this flip again where you have so many influencers, you have so many people making their own short films, like doing YouTube channels that are successful. And it's like, go out there and do it now. The world is open for you to buy an SLR, a cheap SLR, and go make a movie without anybody's permission. So
now, do you feel it is harder now because there's a lot of content creators to be able to let me talk about comedy. When I started doing comedy, there were 100 comedians in the business. And then when I started doing Christian comedy, when I moved to, to do the demand was in the Christian comedy, it was 5 comics out there. Now there's like hundreds of thousands of people who say, actor / plumber / comedian / this / that. So, and the same with content creation. And did that hurt you as a director or a script writer?
I think I was kind of right on the edge of that. So I don't know if I really ever saw a world before the influencer world too much. And maybe it wasn't as predominant when I first got into the industry, but we still definitely had the social media aspect in some capacity. And so I don't know if I really know too much before that. I get the idea that like now with Tubi and a lot of these free streaming things for films, that's kind of cut the feet of of actually trying to turn a profit on films, whereas DVD used to be a big sales. But even then with DVD, there was always a gatekeeper, right? There was always a gatekeeper to get into, Blockbuster or, Hollywood Video or any of these. So I don't know. I think it's just a different way of thinking. Is like, for me, even with some of our smaller films, I've had to think, don't think of this as The Godfather, but just think of this as you're making a high quality YouTube video that you're going to be proud of in the end. This is a long demo reel to show someone what you can do and play within that sandbox until someone else comes and gives you the bigger sandbox. So,
Right.
yeah.
Now, Courtney, what did you learn from the film after doing all that, reading the story, seeing the life of that person? Was there something like, oh, I learned something from this?
Two things. I'll say simply the big takeaway is my love for what is it, praise and worship music. I still listen to all those playlists. They're gorgeous and beautiful. And I think one of the big takeaways in how it changed me was just this, like, can I look at the world through a different lens than I have been? And I think that, I don't know, it's something that I had to do to myself to play to get to the role. And then I think it translates just in like the whole big, reason the film exists is, can we shift a perspective in a small way? Can we do something a little different? Can we look at it just a little bit differently? Because we might see something that we hadn't seen before.
So what is the goal been from out of the movie? Like with someone, let's say someone that Courtney wasn't in the film, but she watched it. Was that what you hope they get out of it? Or what is the biggest thing you hope people would get out of watching the movie?
Well, and I think that's something that's beautiful, is that even all of our cast, before we kind of had a read through, but it wasn't really a read through. We all kind of sat down and we shared our experiences with Christianity, with religion, with what we were raised with, where we are now. And the goal of the film was to make people feel seen and to know, like, a big thing for me is, even if that church has hurt you or if a Christian's been ugly to you, it is okay for you to explore a relationship with God and a relationship with Jesus apart from that religion or church or pastor that hurt you. Is that they don't get to own Jesus. And so that for me is kind of the whole point of the film. And on the flip side of that is, we have the big term right now is deconstruction, right? Is everyone's religious deconstructioning. And the hope, I feel like, through the film is that the people who are deconstructing can also feel seen through this film. Is that, I think, Courtney, you said one time, we don't disregard the voice of the cynics in this movie. We understand why someone might walk away or feel burnt by the church or feel hurt by the church. But we also don't just let it sit there. We don't just let it sit there and say, well, that's too bad, throw it all away. Is we say, it's okay for you to open up to spirituality again. I think there's some statistic that it's like 60 or 70% of youth group kids leave the church and walk away from the faith for a little while. And then when they get into their like 30s or late 20s or early 30s, they start to open themselves up to spirituality again. And that's not always Christianity, but they open themselves up to that discussion again. And that's hopefully something that we captured in this film. So yeah, that's my goal, is that even, I have a little joke that says, the little church lady needs to take her heathen grandkid or kid to this movie, and the heathen grandkid or kid needs to take the little old church lady to this movie, because both you guys can get something out of it and have great discussions afterwards.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Go ahead, Courtney.
No, that was one of my favorite things about the movie. I really appreciated what Ben put in the script, is everybody's angle has a voice, and we're very fair about it. And so the big conjecture is, what if there was a faith film with no agenda? There are two kinds of movies: the ones that rag on the church and the ones that have this big
agenda. You said it.
Yeah, this big accept Jesus, and then your life is magically fixed. And I don't think either one of those really tell the complexity of what this journey can and should be. One that's where most of the ownership is on you, the practitioner. And so if you're looking for a movie that's going to do either of those things, I love to say that that's not what we do. We're trying to do something different, where it's like fair. We're saying, hey, everybody's got a point. Can we talk now?
Right. That's
Well,
awesome.
and even for you, just to kind of tack off that, as you're talking about sharing your story and wanting to get it out there, it's like the hope would be is if this film is successful and does connect, that could open up a whole new space for someone like your son or someone at Biola or whoever that has a yearning or calling on their heart to tell a story of faith in a different way. That I would love to see the Christian film industry kind of blow up and say, you know what, like, okay, what if we were like the pioneers in the indie film industry now? Like, what if we were the ones saying, tell your story this way, or go make it on an iPhone, or do it in this raw way, or tell it from the angle that you feel like the power that could be as of actually not just impacting culture, but creating culture where people are starving for stories. I feel like right now, everything's either a Marvel movie or it's kind of like, it doesn't have teeth or it doesn't feel honest. I'm not saying it as a whole, but there's a lot of that we're seeing in theaters. How great would it be if we saw this genre blow up in a way where we're starting to see these raw, real stories that are actually impacting people and creating culture instead of just following culture.
You know
Mhm.
what? This is
Yeah, I love that you said that. I
yes.
love that you said that. It's like to create the culture and not follow it. Like that's what I always that's the dream there is it's just like, hey, this is actually where I want us to go as a society and as a culture. And like, that's what I feel like being a pioneer and a visionary ultimately is like, hey, how about this way? Anybody want to come this way? And you have to go before you know anybody's going to follow you. And that's what's
Right.
been so scary and wild about this movie. So we were like, hey, is anybody going to watch this?
Terrifying.
Terrifying every step of the way.
But that's the hard part, Courtney, because we're living in a time where you're just like, first of all, you go, okay, do I want to make a living? Do I want to still continue to do what I love to do? Or do I want to go against the culture and do something that might not ever make me any money and but still prove a point? Now there's people who are built that way, that they're built to do that. I know as for I don't know why, but it's just in the last few months, and I've always started writing my movie about my life, and it just last couple of months, I just felt the Lord like you need to finish it, you need to do it, and seeing the Chosen. I mean, we all go back to the Chosen, and the Chosen to me, even though I don't watch it, I'm not I could claim I don't watch the Chosen deliberately. I don't because just my own reasoning that people adding stuff to it, and Sarah don't hate me for it, but. What I'm thinking is like Christians are now paying attention and investing in Christian production companies or and going, wait a minute, if they can raise that many millions and now the Christian market is excited about supporting more work in it'll be interesting to find out how your movie will do because if it does well, then that open more of the conservative Christian going, oh, I can support that instead of just wanting more movies that just hey, like you said, Courtney, it's just they have an agenda. I mean, we all as Christians, I mean, as a Christian, we have an agenda. You have God gave us an agenda, but each in His own way to get to that agenda. But the thing is, like being so obvious about it is different, which you're not doing here. You're really giving people here's the truth, here's the reality. What do you hope that people would do? Right now, people who are watching, people who are going to listen to
Yeah.
this, I'm going to make sure by tomorrow I'll have this
Oh, thank
online.
you.
So,
Thank you.
so people
Yeah.
normally we wait till next week, but because of the movie, what are you hoping people will do for that movie?
Yeah, the biggest thing is we have these 38 theaters across the country this first weekend. So we're up the 15th, 16th, and 17th in 38 theaters across the country. I would love for people, I think all of our times just went up on Fandango, which is exciting. We've been waiting for that, but I think all of our theaters are finally up. We have one in Marietta, if you're interested in that, which is down by Temecula. I know you're in
Yeah,
Corona. Or there's one up in Irvine, and then we have two up in LA, one in San Diego. Anyways, they're everywhere. It's phenomenal. Our Booker team that we worked with, they're called Cinema Cloud Works. I would highly recommend them for any indie film looking to get out there. They're absolutely phenomenal. But basically, if that first weekend goes off and is successful, we get expanded to more theaters and we get more reach. And so that's our big thing is just if you're passionate about this film, it's pastorskidthemovie.com. You can go check out our trailer, check out our film, buy tickets for friends, That's the biggest thing right now. And I would sit here and say what would be so cool is if we can get this to happen. Like my passion is when I worked at that church, I filmed over 200 testimonies, and I would go, this story is an Oscar winning story if it's told in a realistic way, right? It doesn't even need to be R, but just realistic. This story could be an Oscar winning story if it's told in a realistic way. And I'm over here like, wouldn't it be amazing to see this flood of young filmmakers of the faith be able to come in and feel the freedom to tell these stories in honest, authentic ways and see that make an impact? Or like we were saying, create its own culture and actually have Oscar winning type films that are from the faith genre. I know there's been a handful, like Hacksaw Ridge, I think, was nominated for quite a few, and a few others, but I'm just like, man, if we could start pushing ourselves to not just settle for, the church demographic, but say, what are these stories, if we told honestly, could be universal for everyone? That's my dream and my hope.
So, what made the movie, if you don't mind, rated R? What made it rated R?
The biggest thing is just drug use throughout. Is you're seeing her struggle and her mom struggle in that environment, and then language in the film is we wanted to show this is how real people talk within this drug culture, and this is the reality of that, and not try to make that culture look like your church culture, if that makes sense. We want it to be real.
Right. Now, do you think pastors can play this movie in their churches?
Well, we already even had the biggest one was there's a group called Celebrate Recovery, which is basically the Christian
Yes, of
AA.
course.
And my pastor at my church actually went and presented it to them, and they were all very excited. So it's one of these things. It's definitely not for the whole family, but if pastors would want to share it, I think there is a way to say, hey, don't bring your little kids to this one. Maybe not even your teenagers, unless you feel comfortable with it. But yes, we're totally down to show it to whoever wants to see it. But we've had some people from Celebrate Recovery already say, I love this. This should be played at more things, just because it shows that there's a life past these things, but it also doesn't water down the struggle of this in your life, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Now, Courtney, what is your hope for the next project? What are you hoping for? Are you working now? Are you looking forward to some work?
Well, obviously I'm auditioning and stuff. But really my hope, Ben, we've had a tentative talk we're going to have about working together again, because it was such a great experience making this. And he's a wonderful director, and visually I'm gonna brag on you a little bit, and then visually he's just got this eye, and how he shoots stuff, how he moves the camera, how he lights stuff. It's so artistic, and I would love to do that again, just because that was fun. And then I've been writing, and there's a whole, I've been having some stuff in the back of my brain about being more a part of the process in terms of making of and the writing of the development of the idea from the ground up versus just getting hired, which I love. I mean, I will always audition. I will always want those jobs, and I will always go for them. And but there's something else that I'm also kind of hungry for. I'm wanting to explore, like, hey, do I have a knack for another side of it? I mean, I know I love writing. I mean, I've been slowly coming out of the closet as a writer. But that's my hope. I honestly, I don't know if that answers your question. Just really,
It does.
I have a lot of creative energy, and I'm just trying to find places to put it.
That's awesome. Now, would you guys considering on going on a speaking tour after the movie becomes successful and all that?
Sure, I think we would do anything, wouldn't we, Courtney, to support this?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, that'd be amazing.
That would be an honor if people wanted us. Yeah, people wanted us there, and
Yeah. Now, Courtney, let me ask you this: if someone's watching or listening and they would say, "We're looking for an actress for a project we're doing," how can they get a hold of you?
Well, obviously I'm on, wow. I mean, the best part, if you want to just come hang out with me on the internet, is follow me on Instagram. It's just my last name with another OT, Bandicoot.
Okay, let's see. On IG at what is it?
B as in boy, ANDEKOO.
BAND
EK
EK
OOT.
OOT as in Tom. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that would be, let's see. Okay, so that would, if people want to get a hold of you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, as for Ben, I want to say if some investors were going, hey, we want to start some funding his next movie, or we want him to come to our church and speak and talk
Absolutely.
about this, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, if you just go to pastorskidthemovie.com.
Pastors, okay, I'm trying to do this myself.
You're all
So,
good.
Pastors Kid,
Yep, themovie.com.
the movie.com. Okay, and they can get a hold of you right
Yep,
there.
there's a contact page on there, and the email goes right to my personal email.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and also, I do want the people watching or listening to support Christian filmmakers and film directors, even though the movie might not be the typical like Christian movie, like God is Not Dead movie,
Hmm.
but it still will get the people who normally would not see a Christian movie would come see it, and then at the end will turn their hearts to Christ. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, but at least it will help them in their life. It will give them a purpose and an example too. So, just in closing, Ben, just can you encourage someone with being a man of faith and just
Sure.
doing what you love to do, God giving you this gifting and this talent to do that? Can you just encourage someone who's like right now depressed, hurting, thinking life has no hope?
Mhm. Absolutely not. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I got something for you. No, just kidding. As there's a little quote that I love that is, art is the collaboration between God and the artist, and the less the artist does, the better. And so for me, that idea is it's like, train, and if you're into something, whatever that is, baking, cooking, vlogging, whatever the thing is, train and obviously work hard, but then also know when to let go and allow God or the process to kind of take over, and just trust that even if that doesn't turn into your financial like job, that maybe it's better for that. There's a lot of closed doors in the industry, and I look back on some of those closed doors, and if they'd been opened, I don't know if I would have liked the track they would have taken me. And so I truly believe a lot of times those closed doors are God protecting you from something that you shouldn't have been in anyways. And
Mm,
so instead of and it's easy, way easier said than done. Trust me, I get depressed and bummed out all the time when I get rejected. But just trying to, again, like, turn your eyes on that idea of inspiration or God, and that's why you're doing it. You're not doing it to get these other people's attention or to get money or notoriety. You're doing it because there's something within you that you feel called to do that. Does that make
that's
sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Well, guys, just I can go for another hour with you guys, but
Dude,
I appreciate your time. And so, what a nice added surprise to have you, Courtney, with us. And
dude.
again, guys, you can go to pastorskidsthemovie.com and be able to find out where it's playing. Please take people, pastors, take your whole church, get him
Yes, it'd be
ticket.
amazing.
The not the youth group, but the you know the especially if you have a celebrate recovery. I know so many churches we have celebrate recovery and a lot of Salvation Army churches. I would love you to go and support the movie because I think you guys are at the edge of where it's gonna where every Christian wants to see Christian movies really
Right,
thrive
right,
and
right.
be okay. We're as good as Hollywood does
Hmm.
without the garbage, without the hopelessness, without the violence. We can still do that. So this is awesome. So
Well, and even the movie, real quick, Jesus Revolution. I don't know if you got a chance to see that one, but a character ODs in a long scene. It's a long,
yes,
drawn out scene, and I was sitting there and I was so impressed that they put that in the film, and it was still very much accepted within the Christian industry, the Christian world, and that's where I'm just like, we are pushing, and like, I mean, not just us, but I'm saying things like The Chosen and all these others, Jesus Revolution, are pushing that envelope, and I'm loving what we're seeing come out of it. So I hope we're
yes.
just kind of the next step on that journey a little bit.
That's
So.
awesome. And I pray that it will do very, very well for you guys. And Courtney, you'll get a lot of work out of it.
Oh yeah.
And Ben, wish you the best. Hopefully, if you're ever guys in Southern California,
Oh yeah.
would love
We're
to
there.
connect.
That'd
I'm
be
I'm
great.
I'm performing this weekend in near Sacramento. So if there's a
Mhm.
place I can find to watch the movie, I will
Yeah.
do my maybe Friday night. I will go see it Friday night.
Yeah. Come down to Marietta. Let me know, or go over to Irvine.
Are you going to be in Marietta?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be at Marietta on Friday. I'll have to see.
And you're
We
going to
do.
be at the theater?
Yeah, we got more showtimes in Marietta than I thought. They had like 5 or 6 showtimes. We were supposed to only get one. So it's
Okay.
already been expanding. We got 6 more theaters just randomly yesterday. They gave us 6 more. So it's just been, I just hope butts fill the seats is my big thing. But
Yeah.
it's been so exciting to see it happen.
Hopefully it'll be in all theaters around the country. That's
Yeah.
my prayer. God bless you guys.
Thank you so much, man.
For your time. I appreciate it. All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. What a nice real talk. Just being, maybe this is the beginning of having more film directors, producers, and actors and actresses that really doing movies that are real, but still have the faith in them and the values of Christ in them. So, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you. If you're in the Northern California area, be with me this Saturday for the fundraiser for Kenya, and on Sunday morning I'll be at the refuge. Love you guys. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and tell your friends. And all you 132 people left with us, thank you so much for watching tonight. God bless you and have a good night.